This corruption report includes the breaking of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire, the US government shutdown, mass killings in Sudan, and President Trump's plan to increase nuclear weapons testing. Let's report some corruption.
President Trump wants more nuclear testing done.
North Korea is the only country that has detonated a nuclear weapon in the 21st century.
The reason I'm saying testing is because Russia announced that they were going to be doing a test. If you notice, North Korea is testing constantly. Other countries are testing. We're the only country that doesn't test.
President Trump also claiming China and Russia are conducting secret nuclear tests, which both countries deny. Russia responding by threatening its own detonations, with China urging the U.S. to abide by the nuclear test ban treaty.
Israel launched an airstrike that killed 104 Palestinians, including 46 children and 20 women. Netanyahu claims he ordered the airstrike due to a gunfight that resulted in Hamas's killing of an IDF soldier in Rafah, and the mishandling of hostage remains. Details about the gunfight that took place between a cell of fighters, whether it's Islamic Jihad or Hamas, and with the Israeli forces, are still murky. Communication in Gaza is unreliable, and it's unclear how many rogue factions exist within the area. However, do you think Israel's airstrike was a reasonable response to Hamas's violations? An airstrike that killed 104 people, 46 of which were children. Israel now claims that the ceasefire is back in place, but I ask, what is the point of a ceasefire if you can simply pause it, launch an airstrike, and kill a bunch of civilians? It doesn't look like a real ceasefire to anyone paying attention. In our next topic, the United States government shutdown is withholding food benefits for millions of low-income Americans, and politicians from both sides are to blame. SNAP, the nation's largest anti-hunger program, has gone dark for the first time in its history. Millions of the nation's poorest citizens are without food aid because Washington politicians are unwilling to compromise and pass a funding bill. Democrats want to include an extension that they say will make health insurance cheaper for millions of Americans and include a reversal of Trump's cuts to Medicaid. Republicans want to negotiate the health insurance subsidies separately and only pass what they call a clean resolution. Democrat politicians say the Republicans are responsible for the shutdown for a number of reasons, including the fact that Speaker Mike Johnson has kept the House of Representatives out of session and lawmakers have remained in their home districts. Now, this point is hard to argue, and at the end of the day, these politicians are still getting paid regardless of the government shutdown, regardless of the millions of Americans that will suffer, which is just absolutely criminal in my opinion. Why should they receive paychecks from our tax money while they are directly responsible for shutting the government down? In fact, I feel we should be actively cutting their paychecks when they cause a crisis like this. The blood can be seen from space due to mass killings in Sudan by the paramilitary group known as Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. This past week alone, they've killed thousands in El Fasher, and the victims of the massacres were primarily civilians from non-Arab ethnic groups, including men, women, and children. And as far back as 2023, there has been a civil war taking place, and the US State Department has said that the RSF is committing ethnic cleansing. Now, the RSF gets their funding primarily from companies in the UAE, a country that somehow simultaneously manages to be allies with administrations in Saudi Arabia, the United States, Russia, China, and Israel, to just name a few. This military force, the RSF, needs to be stopped, and those funding them need to face accountability. For the first time in 33 years, the United States is testing their nuclear weapons. President Trump said, quote, "Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately." Now, resuming testing would violate the terms of the 1996 Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty signed by the United States and 186 other countries. It bans all nuclear explosions, whether for military or other purposes, with the goal in mind of curbing all nuclear arms proliferation. And according to the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organization, the treaty also prevents the serious health and environmental impacts of nuclear tests. Since 1945, the US has conducted 1,054 nuclear weapons, but none since 1992. China, by comparison, has conducted a total of 47 nuclear tests. If the US were to resume nuclear weapons testing and China used that as an opening for doing the same, it could help Beijing with weapon design and allow them to expand their arsenal, according to experts. An escalation of nuclear testing opens the door for another arms race, a race that has no long-term positive impact. It does, however, have a potentially short-term positive impact for weapons manufacturers who stand to profit. There is a lot more corruption out there that we need to report, so drop a like on this video, comment the corruption that we should cover next week, and become a member on Patreon if you want to support the corruption report. The link will be in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.